Okay, awesome. If everyone just wants to mute themselves, bottom left-hand corner, where I can do it for you.
Yay, everyone's came back.
Stephanie, if you have anything else, go ahead. Sorry.
No. That was pretty much the end of my slide. And so I usually now just kind of open it up to questions and kind of seeing, what thoughts you had then or,
I just listening to you motivated me. I just had a little powwow with my team about how I've been really inconsistent since we moved or since we started packing. So it's perfect timing and that, we're getting settled finally. But I think everything that you said is so true. And it's so nice to hear it from someone else's perspective who, you just do things different than we do, obviously, as a team. But your why and your motivations behind what you're doing, that's a lot of times that's like the one thing we have in common as coaches, and you just put so much power behind it. So I love hearing it come from someone else. It's nice for, my team to hear it from somebody else too. So I had one question and then I'll let anyone else jump in, but your first point was like somewhere along the line you said, that was your second point. You need to do the reps. So your 4 vital behaviors every single day. Was there ever a time when you weren't doing them every single day that you recognized that this has to become a priority for me?
So for me, I think for me and especially like my type of personality. So if you guys have not taken a personality test, I definitely suggest that you take a personality test. I'm now I don't know, Jen, do you make them take personality tests?
No, I should make them.
Yeah, it's really powerful. One test is like the GEM test, but so for me, when I first started, I didn't do a lot of personal development. And so, and even me, when I was really busy, I always focused on inviting. That was always like my one vital behavior that I would never, ever break off. Even if it was just like posting on my social media, which was like, hey, just finished my workout. I'm about to run into a shift. Super excited. I have a group starting in 2 weeks. Message me if you're interested. Like I always, every single day, tried to show up with something that was inviting, whether via a post or whether following up with someone or sending someone a message. And so even like that was always my number one must behavior, kind of looking back. And then second was my fitness. And then third was always, because fourth one just came around, but third was always my personal behavior. My personal development. And it wasn't until I started having other coaches that were very different from me that I recognized that I needed to work more on leadership and, needed to work more on how do I motivate others that are different from me. And so that's where I was like, and also just kind of the emotional roller coaster of this business is real, like very real. And I want you guys to understand that you need to have tough skin in this business. You need to have a humongous thick layer of armor on you that is super thick. And something that I tell my coaches all the time too now is that personal development is so important. Your belief in the success of your business is so important. And I always will tell newer coaches or even coaches that are rising as a leader, like you need to understand that what are you going to do when you have 30 coaches under you and none of them are doing anything? Or what are you going to do when you get to diamond and you drop rank? Because it's inevitable. Everyone drops rank. Everyone has coaches that don't work this business. Everyone has people who are getting, just telling them no after no after no. Are you just going to automatically just give up when things get tough? Or are you going to keep pushing through and keep working through and keep making sure that you're doing all the things necessary to help with your business? And so that's where personal development is so, so important, because sometimes when I'm feeling really down, I will read personal development and I get energy again. Or maybe I go to a personal development workshop, whether it's Tony Robbins or Danny Johnson, or really plugging into podcasts. That's really important, especially just handling with the emotional roller coaster of this business. Let's see. Any questions? topics, concerns. Again, I answer any question. I'm like an open book. My coach, some of my coaches are on this call too, so it makes me happy. But it's I'm just like my favorite book. Good question. So my favorite book. So obviously, personal development should be very purposeful. And I say that because I think a lot of times people are like, what book do you read? And realizing that I have different weaknesses than you have. So when I started this business, I had no issues with confidence and I had no issues with belief in myself. I knew coming in that I would be successful because I just knew it. I had no doubt. So depending on what your weaknesses are, so like if you are someone that just has a lot of trouble with believing in yourself and just kind of your self-worth, one book that I really like is You Are a Badass by Jen, Sincero. I think I'm saying it right, Sincero, but there's an S. And she has a really great book. If you are a perfectionist like I was, if you are someone that, you feel like everything needs to be perfect before you move forward, a book that I really, really love is called The Gifts of Imperfection. It's a very deep book. It's written by Brené Brown, and she is someone who did her PhD in shame. And so it is a phenomenal book because perfectionism is rooted in shame. And it is, every line in that book, I was like, oh my God, this is me. Oh my God, this is me. Like, this is, this is so me. So why take a personality test? So personality tests are really great because there are 4 different types of personalities. You have, and they're named differently in different arenas. But it's important, especially when you're working with a team, to understand who you're working with so that you can motivate them according to how they're motivated. And it will also help you be more understanding of their tendencies if you know that this is just how they are. It's the same thing like in a relationship. So what I make my coaches do now is or at least what I'm asking my coaches to do now is actually take 2 types of tests. And this actually came via advice from a 15-star diamond who I really love, dearly. And she has them take a GEM test, which is more based on their personality. And she has all coaches take the love language test, which if you guys haven't taken the love language test, that's phenomenal for your relationships, for your spouse relationships, your child relationships, just in general. And why it's important is, let me give you an example of the GEM test. So the GEM test, there's 4 different types of personalities. There are rubies, there are sapphires, there are pearls, and there are emeralds. Rubies are your go-getters. You're super confident, always driven by a challenge. If you can't tell, I'm a hard ruby. That is what I am. I'm super, I love the challenge. I'm super driven. I'm cutthroat. It's how I am. I'm also sapphire. Sapphire are the people who love fun. They're always the life of the party. They're always super outgoing. They're always, they're bad with time. They're always like people who are late. You need to tell them that they need to not, that they need to be 10 minutes from where you are, from what the time they need to kind of arrive. You have the pearls. Your pearls are your people who are really motivated by a cause. They want to help people. They also, unfortunately, are the people who get really taken advantage of because they're so nice. They're so nice and they're so forgiving and they want to help everyone and they avoid confrontation and they want to please the world and they want world peace, and that is a pearl. And then you have emeralds that are really driven by facts. Those are the people who like checklists and they like everything to be organized and they need to understand everything before they move forward. Those are your coaches or your prospects who ask you 50,000 questions before they even sign up, and then they may not even sign up and you're pulling your hair out if you're like me. So it's just interesting and good to understand that those are the different personalities, especially when you're building a team and understanding how your team interacts and how they are, what their tendencies are, so that you don't get impatient. Like if I have an emerald, I know I have to approach them differently than if I have a ruby. If I have a ruby, I know I can say, go diamond in 30 days. And they're going to be like, yes, let's go. But if I tell that to a pearl, they're going to be like, oh my God, like that's a lot of information. Like it's different. And then the same thing with the love languages, there's 5 different love languages. And that's really important because understanding that how we love and how we love others, how we want to be loved. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, let's say, I'll give the example of a spouse. It doesn't mean that because of how I want to be loved, it doesn't mean that my spouse feels love the same way that I feel love. And this is where a lot of, in relationships, there may be a spouse who, for example, they love by doing acts of service. So they're always cleaning and they're always cooking and they're always doing things for their spouse. but their spouse maybe doesn't see that as an act of love. And really what they want is lots of words of affirmation, lots of love, lots of, I love you, you look great, thank you, etc. Lots of words of affirmation. But if that's not important to that person, they're not going to give that to their spouse. And so the love tank of their spouse is going to be empty. And so it's important in coaching, because if I have a coach who wants a lot of affirmation, words of affirmation, me writing her cards or me saying, good job, like I appreciate you, is going to be different than if someone I know loves gifts. I can send them a little book. I can send them a little trinket. It's really different. So it's important to understand who you're working with in your team. And that's the best advice I got recently. And so that's something that I've been kind of really implementing with my team moving forward. What is your primary social media, and do you post generically or using a posting app? So I grew on Instagram, on Facebook. I started first with my Facebook personal page, as I also grew my Instagram, as I also grew my business page on Facebook. And I tend to post the same material on all the applications. I do not use a posting app, which I know is crazy. I kind of still go on the whim, and I know that I should use a posting app like Sendable or Hootsuite or Buffer app, but I do not. I kind of just will post as I go. And so, but I grew primarily when I first started my business. I had 1,000 friends on Facebook. So and I understand that not everyone has that. A lot of people have 200, less than 200, 200 to 400 friends. And so I used that to my advantage, that I knew 1,000 people. And I really I really was very aggressive with posting what I was, posting about what I was doing. And then when I started on Instagram, I had 200 followers, and I've grown my Instagram to over 13,000 followers. And I've grown my business page my Facebook, where I started with 1,000 friends. I maxed out at 5,000 friends. And then I have my business page, which is now at 31,000 followers. So when I talk about you have to grow your market. And I find that, at the end of the day, that is what's, that's what's usually the momentum building for a lot of coaches, is that you have to grow your market. And if you have a small market, that's okay. You can still be very successful. I know lots of coaches who have been very successful growing their cold market, but it takes consistency and it takes time. You have to stay consistent. You have to have a game plan of how you're going to grow that market, because that is where your future sales and your success is going to come from. You can't expect to just make all your money from the people that you know right now. And so just kind of understanding that and knowing that you have to grow your market. Any other questions? Anything? I don't think so.
Okay. Well, if there's no questions, I feel supercharged by you. Can you just come and speak to us, once a month? Use a little excitement.
And and it's interesting, guys, because we tend to, Jen, and, I've really appreciated Jen, because Jen is honestly, her personality is a majority of my team, and it's just so important to kind of realizing that there's all different types of personalities.
Yeah.
And, I know my team was very inspired by Jen, just because they finally felt someone who was like them, who had the success, being who they are authentically. Let me see something. What type of free challenges do you do? So we have the free clean eating challenges. And a lot of this came from, we have the free clean eating challenges. And then we also, I have girls who do the Beachbody on Demand, kind of a free trial type of challenge. So that's what, I know you guys do a lot of free challenges, which I think is awesome. And that's part of my newer training, is having my coaches do free clean eating challenges to kind of get that momentum building. So it's great that you guys do that. It's a great way to build.
Yeah, like she said, she had a huge warm market at first. I know most of my people, I feel like when I'm looking at faces on here, we all started pretty small. Like I had less than 200 friends. So
yeah. And it's interesting, Jen, because after you spoke, I had another guest speaker who was actually a 57-year-old 3-star diamond, which I thought was awesome. And she was very similar to you as well. She had less than 200 friends when she started, and she does clean eating challenges every month religiously too. So I think that is the proper way to really grow and to have that consistent, momentum, building.
Yep. We all know we feel it if we skip one.
Very, very important.
I think. Oh, was there another one? Oh, yeah. Okay, that's it, I think. Well, thank you. It's nice to hear from you again. And really, if you guys have any questions that pop up in your head, I can shoot them to Stephanie over the next couple of days via Messenger. But we really appreciate your time and learning from you. And hopefully we'll chat soon.
Absolutely.
All right,
All right, guys.
Good night, everyone.